Thank you for listening to the Following Films podcast. Today I'm joined by director S.K. Dale. I had him on the show today to talk about his latest film, Subservience. The film follows a struggling father who purchases a domestic robot to help care for his house and his family. Unaware she will gain awareness and turn deadly. The film stars Megan Fox and is currently available on VOD. I had a great time chatting with SK and really loved the film. Quick note about this recording, though. I did record this while I was driving my son to practice and actually dropping him off. So there's a little bit of background noise here. I don't think it's too distracting, but there is definitely some noise that you do hear in the background from time to time in this interview. Normally, I would have tried to schedule this during regular office hours. This is the only time that I could make this one work. So I loved the film and really wanted to talk to SK about it. So I hope you'll put up with the less than typical audio quality on this one, but I think it's still listenable. So make sure you check out Subservience. It's currently available on VOD. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, okay. First thing I have to ask, is this film essentially an elaborate version of film preservation? That's kind of, if you destroy Casablanca, you destroy the world.
It's exactly what it is. You know, it's interesting. I remember when we were on set and we were getting that, and Daniel Lindholm, who's our cinematographer, we were kind of setting up that shot where we have Casablanca playing in Megan Fox's eyeball, in the reflection of it. I remember him thinking, well, he said, this is film history right here. And it was so exciting. We kind of were chopping and changing right to the lead up of that scene of what film we could get the rights to. And, the production were trying to find a lesser known film that would be cheaper. But it kind of turns out those films back then, if they're lesser known, usually have, like, they're tied up into different studios and studios that don't exist anymore and everything like that. So going for something like Casablanca kind of worked out well for us in terms of being able to just, know we had the rights, show what we were going to do with it and everything. But yeah, that scene has a special place in my heart, being able to have Casablanca in my own film.
Well, it's the one that if you had to choose of any classic film, I think that's the one you would obviously have chosen. So it's just a perfect little thing that you backed into there. That's amazing.
100%. Yeah, I really didn't expect, when we put it in there that we were going to be able to get it. I was kind of waiting for that, to fall. But yeah, I was amazed when we got onto the set and we were shooting it. And when they were allowing me to do this, I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep going with this, and hopefully we can, continue with it. And by that stage, we had evolved the script to have a few lines here and there, and create those rippling effects from that scene. So I kind of felt like we had tied ourselves to that film, and concreted ourselves in that we couldn't really move from that point on. But I do love that scene because I do think it's kind of a moment that is like the stitch unraveling for Alice,
Absolutely.
our character. So yeah, it does. I really love that, how that scene came together.
Well, I only make the joke about film preservation, but truly it is a wonderful moment in the movie because it's one of those things where when you look at it, it really is the greater theme of that sort of misunderstanding of what's happening here. And that it is all of the things that happen in this movie are set in motion by our reliance on technology, on our passing of the buck, and us not being perfectly clear in what we need and what we want. So it's all, everything here was avoidable. And it's really, that is the sort of linchpin that really pulls out and the whole world falls apart in that moment.
Yeah. To me, that was part of the excitement of this film, and it was really exploring the more intimate kind of elements of, a family and a fractured family, or a family becoming fractured through this technology. I think a lot of AI films tend to kind of focus on a larger scope of the world ending and stuff like that. And so for me, exploring a family's perspective through this, and, getting glimpses of, his work life or the hospital and stuff like that, and seeing how seeing not only the negatives but also the positives of this technology. To me, that was pretty vital.
Oh, absolutely. And it is something, this is a much more human approach to a story like this. Like you said, most of the films that I've seen that have dealt with this, they don't deal through it through the lens of a family. It's kind of the end of the world stakes. And this is really just about this one family falling apart. And I just love how cinematic this film is. It looks great. It sounds amazing. Your score here is fantastic. But really, you could almost adapt this thing as a play because it really is about three characters sitting in a room more than anything.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because the draft of the script when I got onto it, even the third act kind of took place at home. So I was kind of like, well, let's expand this a little bit more. Let's get out of the home just a little bit. But having done Till Death, which is this kind of contained thriller, all set in a house.
Right.
Prior to it, I was excited to kind of get out of the house at some point. But you're right, it is even Subservience is quite contained in its location, time, and characters. I think something that I guess I'm fascinated by that as well. I think that suspense can really grow from that contained kind of boiling pot element, and so I like playing with that stuff, but also playing on a sense of dread when she's in the house, and giving something that we can relate to in a way where we've all had a dinner scene with people and all that, but now you've got a robot just overlooking your shoulder and stuff like that, and there's something unnerving about that, and just playing into that, and like you said, the score for this it really helped kind of flesh that out. And Jed Palmer, who did the score, I was actually it's funny, I had a meeting with him right the day after my Spotify list came through, of who I was listening to that week, and he was in the top 5 of the year. And I said to him, well, I've been listening to your scores all the way up to this film. I feel like I have to use you now while I've been writing this script and everything. I'm just listening to him. So he was kind of the perfect person to kind of come in and really help create that sci-fi world.
Well, it's such a beautiful continuation of, you can hear elements of the work that he did in Upgrade, but it has this organic layer with the orchestration on top of it that really does it almost feels like a spiritual continuation of that film in many ways, because thematically it's so similar. I think that they're both films that are deceptively funny at times also, where I think your film here, I think Megan Fox is hilarious in this thing. She's great. And I hope people are connecting with that, because there were several times here where I was just dying, like literally laughing out loud. That's not something I do very often when I'm watching a film by myself.
That's great. Yeah. I still haven't really watched it with we did a lot of test screenings, but they were kind of more like, 6 or so people at one time. And I still want to get into a cinema and see what it's like to play. So we do have a big friends and family screening next week with about 100 people. I'm excited to see what it's like in there and see how they kind of take these moments, because they are, it's not necessarily, it's like darkly humorous in certain ways, and it's like I feel like you have 10 people can have a different reaction to this. It's not necessarily like a flat out comedy. So I'm kind of interested to see what it does in a large group.
Oh no, it's definitely not a flat out comedy, but it is one of those things where I don't think I would be Robert De Niro and Cape Fear alone laughing in the theater at Robert Mitchum. I don't think it would be that kind of thing, but I do think that there is a level of humor here and playfulness throughout this material, and that's only served because in moments of tension, comedy is the relief from that. It's why we always laugh when we're scared, and those kind of moments that you have here, and it's because you spend so much time with this family that you really do care about them, that I think that the humor works in this.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. And I think, creating a family, and, to me, the biggest challenge as well with the script was kind of, you have this husband who's going to be unfaithful, and not just unfaithful, but like unfaithful while his wife is sick.
Yeah.
It's you're kind of putting him in this position of the audience to really dislike him early on. So
Oh yeah.
relying on the other characters, these supporting characters to really come in and help build the emotion and help build stakes, because without, if you're not caring about your character, you're kind of losing all the stakes of the film. But really, that was one of the things that I loved about the Maggie character and this wife coming home, is that she really sneaks into the story that becomes the hero by the end of it. And I always loved that element of the script.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where I think that when you're watching this as an audience member, this guy makes so many mistakes right from the beginning. The fact that he doesn't think, oh wait, I shouldn't bring Megan Fox home with me. My sick wife might object to this. Right off the jump, watching this with my wife, she just gives me that look that says, if you ever try to pull this shit, it's over. And so right away, this guy is making these mistakes. Like, oh yeah, my daughter chose this. Well, maybe not completely. And so it is just I don't know. I just had a blast watching this. And one of the joys that I have with genre films like this is when people make these human mistakes that we all make. To some degree, we're not all perfectly likable, but maybe this isn't the consequence that's deserved in the end, but it is something. There is a morality here that I do really appreciate.
Yeah, I think people, get so stuck up in, like, producers particularly, they worry about likability, and
right.
I get it, but like at the same time, like, I think sometimes you're starting to kind of wash down a lot of films by making sure they're so likable and not wanting to have, and I don't know. I love flawed characters. I love, seeing them, make mistakes and learn from the mistakes and try and attempt to redeem themselves. But no, it's funny having, some of the test audiences seeing, how women would react to it as opposed to how, the males. It was so fascinating. We actually did this kind of like female only screening, purposely to be like, to see how they would handle this guy and what he's doing and everything. And it was quite fascinating to see how many were willing to forgive him, but also just like certain things that I thought weren't an issue would be an issue. And you're like, oh yeah. And so it was actually one of the most eye-opening kind of for our edit, because we hadn't actually locked off the edit by that stage. So to kind of come back into it and change a few things around and just do a few little things that made a big difference. In the end, I think, it was nice to kind of see them and also just see them debating the story afterwards, and to see, what they thought of it. And I think the sci-fi element kind of makes it a bit more interesting, and seeing where people were trying to find the line between, well, this is, doing this might be okay, but doing that's too far and everything. So I find that sci-fi element so fascinating in this story.
Well, it absolutely is a fascinating piece of this story, but the initial part that you were talking about there, and I know we're out of time at this point, but I just want to throw this out there as an audience member in general. I don't care about likability. I care about characters that are compelling, that I'm interested in, that I want to spend time with. Most of my favorite films are not filled with characters that are likable and making morally straight choices the entire time. It's those elements that are off that make people and characters compelling. So please keep making compelling films, not likable films, because you got a good one here, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think that too often we kind of focus on things that, don't necessarily matter, or, it's more as well. This isn't a film that needs to kind of, appease and make $1 billion at the box office. So you don't need everyone rooting for this guy. You can, these scale of projects, you can do that stuff. And what's kind of disheartening is that for so many years now, this kind of size project has been kind of whittling down further and further. Yeah. Even those kind of the 90s and early 2000s thrillers that I loved so much, that were in that kind of 30 million or under budget range, you just don't see anymore. And I think they're the ones that, like, I look back now and I'm like, they could take risks. They could create more unique, flawed characters. And I think, it's right now it's a budgetary thing. It's we're just doing big tentpole movies, and I like tentpole movies. I think it's great, but when you've only got those playing, it's kind of you want to see more interesting, unique things done, and more things that it can be directed towards adults. We don't have to worry about something like this is adult themed, and we don't have to worry about every teenager getting out of their house and coming along to see it.
Well, I don't know. When I'm 48 years old, and so when I was a teenager, these adult-minded thrillers were the things that I went to theater to watch. These are the things that excited me. And so, I don't think the things that are made for specific audiences, they don't always connect with and land with those audiences necessarily. It's always you're a couple years off. You're more interested in that kind of generation ahead of you to some degree. So, for me, it's the reason why if you go to a concert, usually the people in the audience are about 10 years younger than the people on the stage. And I think that you don't have to have yourself mirrored to find a story interesting.
I totally agree. No, I think you're on the money there. I will say I was always terrified to watch horror movies as a kid, and it wasn't until I started doing filmmaking that I felt like, okay, I can watch them now and break it down, that there's a crew behind that camera and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the thing. I was always fascinated by how the magic trick worked, and that's why I'm sitting here today, just trying to I still unravel some of that magic from when I was a kid. But, dude, this is a movie that I might not watch with my 14-year-old son, but I would gladly leave the Blu-ray on the shelf so that he could watch it and discover this, because I think he'd get an absolute kick out of it, man.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. It's great to hear.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. And sorry for the bumpy start while I was trying to drop my son off at practice.
No,
so I appreciate it.
All good. No dramas, awesome. Mate. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care. Good luck, man. Thank you.
Catch you back.
Time enough to figure you out. Time enough to write this down. Wish me luck. Give me hope. So I voice crack.